Oh, there you are. Welcome to FiddleHed Fiddle Lessons. We're going to learn how to add variation to the tune, Kerry Polka. So this is all part of a course I got on Irish fiddle variation. And so I've just shown you how it sounds. Now let's learn how to do it. So I'm not going to go too much into detail on exact fingerings and stuff. I'm just going to basically show you what was added to the basic version. That means that you should know the basic version first, know it and practice it before doing this lesson. And that applies to anything. Anytime you're presented with a variation version, start with a more simple version. And that goes for if you're learning stuff from sheet music too. I try to do that. Like if I'm learning from sheet music and there's all kinds of crazy or ornaments written in, I try to strip them away right away so that I can just hear that core essential melody and then go back and add them later. And then I usually try to add what they suggest and the bowings and so forth. And then eventually it becomes my own and I start experimenting, fiddling with it and adding my own stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to work through each part. I'm going to play the basic and then I'm going to play the variation and then show you how I added variation to that. So we're going to start the first quarter of the A part. Basic version of this, Kerry Polka. I'm assuming you know that based on the spiel I just gave, and then the variation version. Alright, by the way, I probably don't need to say this, but I have lessons on the basic version on FiddleHed and on YouTube. So what did I add there? I added a mordent to the first note. Here it is in slow motion. So it's adding one low 2 to the first A1. There it is in super slow motion, faster. It's very similar to a cut or a grace note. All right, it's the same rough family. So I have another lesson on trills. Trills are a great way to prepare and practice for all these Irish ornaments. So basically you could practice 1 to low 2 and in one bow see how fast you can do it. Now we don't really use trills in much like folk fiddling. It's used a lot in classical music. But I feel that it's a great way to learn and train your fingers. And even if you weren't doing these Irish ornaments, you would get faster if you did it. If you practice trills, you can practice. So more on that in the trills lesson. And so basically now that once you get that on one note, try to integrate it into the first bar, like so. Maybe you can't do it that fast. Don't worry, just try anyways as fast as you can. Like. And just stick with that. So the next thing I'm going to show you and that we're going to add is a triplet. And triplets are very similar to mordents in my mind. A mordent is just kind of a fast version of the triplet. So if I did the same thing as a triplet, it would be. But I rearranged it as a mordent, which is quicker. The first 2 notes are super quick. You hear the difference? And here's a triplet. Alright, so anyhow, moving on, the basic version, the second quarter is. I'm going to add a triplet at the end. Alright, so looking at that bar, the basic was A, D, 3, 1, and I'm adding A, D, 3, and then triplet 1, 3, 1. So I'm replacing just a straight quarter note of D1 with a triplet 1 3 1. Right? So we have. So I'm going to give you a great practice that's the core of the Irish fiddle variation course that I have to always remind you of. Can you guess what it is? What am I going to tell you to do with this? Yes, I'm going to go between the basic version and the variation for this one bar. So we're going to just loop it together, alternating basic and variation. So basic, variation, basic, variation. If you get nothing else out of this lesson, and the whole Irish fiddle variation course, it's to, when you're learning and practicing variation, to, once you get the thing, try to alternate it with a simpler, more basic version. And that'll help you to learn that variation. But it's also going to help you develop the sense for if it works, if you like it. As a fiddler, you got to kind of start to develop your own taste and your own sensibility. So this is going to help you test. It's like a little experiment. The basic version is like the control group, then the experimental group is the variation, and you just keep testing as you go, all right? So those two variations are basically what's in this whole tune, Kerry Polka. And then the third quarter is the same as the first. The fourth quarter, I actually added no variation. All right, let's move on to the B part, first quarter of the B part. So, basic version was. I love this tune. People hate this tune, but I love this tune. It's just a great melody. I've probably played it 2,000 times at least. So I'm not bragging there either, and I'm not ashamed. It's just true. I've played it a lot. I teach it a lot, but it doesn't get old. For some reason, good melodies don't get old to me. So here's the variation of the first bar, the B. I added two triplets there. A 1 3 1, and then instead of, I added, so 1 3 1. Practice that. 1 3 1. It's tricky because I connect together this A1 with the triplet. Like, let me do it separate so you see what I'm saying. I do that again. Actually, that's a good way to practice it. Start with it with separate. All right, and then once you get that, try to connect like so. Connect that 1 3 1 bow. Do you hear that? Hear that? And then the separate would be, and then connecting. All right. I'm glad I gave this lesson, because now I didn't even think I was going to show that to you, and I did. So cool. And then basic of the second bar is, and then we're just adding, which we did in the A part already. So the whole first quarter of the B part variation. And that's really the only thing that's new here, all right, from the A part. All right, so cool. I think what I want to do now is just play the entire thing. All right, 2 A's, 2 B's, a little bit more slowly. 3 and 4 and. B part. Okay, so that's pretty much it for this. There's so much more you could do, but there's always also less you could do. You don't even need to add these variations, but they're fun, and you know that it'll help kind of get more of the Irish sound. But I just want to close by saying that in these versions, there's not as much variation as there could be on purpose. I only want to give you a little bit, but I want you to really master the few little additions we have, and then later you could start to experiment and add more on your own. And while we're at it, I'll say that these versions are nothing authoritative. There's thousands of ways to do this, and you'll hear it if you start to listen to other versions. But what I want you to do is you work through it, try to do my variations, my arrangements, and if you make a mistake, it might not be a mistake. Maybe it's something you want to repeat. That's the tricky thing about learning this. You have to have a little bit of an open mind and to not think of your mistakes necessarily as mistakes. All right, that's it. Thanks so much for watching. It's been fun. I always learn by teaching. You know, I learn a lot just right in the moment. I think I'm going to teach a certain thing a certain way, and then as we start going and you're listening and your feedback, I can learn new ways to do it. So thank you for that. And also we'll see you next time is the point. All right, bye. Go to FiddleHed.com for a progressive step-by-step course outline, color-coded tabs, play-along tracks, sheet music, and much more. Thanks for watching the video. Excellent. And don't forget to subscribe. Thanks.